Rogers Business Grade Internet with LTE Backup explained. Okay, so I've now got 3 or 4 of these installed at sites that I manage, and when I first heard it on the radio, the first place I heard it, I sort of understood what it was, but I didn't, I tried to call Rogers, and nobody at Rogers could really explain to me precisely what it was at a hardware level and explain what was going on. It's pretty straightforward, actually. You've got here your Rogers cable modem, and then they introduce inline this device, which is made by Cradlepoint, and it is provided by Rogers, and of course this box is as well. This is all provided by Rogers, included in the fee. So the device, specific device, doesn't matter. It's what it does that matters. And this, as you can see, has a couple of antennas. There's 2 antennas. One's hiding behind the monitor there. So this device has a LTE 4G modem built into it. So the Rogers Internet comes into this box, cable modem, passes through this Cradlepoint, which is a load balancing router, basically, and then passes through there into our local router. That's the path of the internet. So the question is, what happens? Of course, your internet goes down. This goes down. That means this box fails over and uses LTE data. It's not really a new concept. The concept of load balancing has been around for a long time, and you could always use a regular load balancing router, like this one here I used to use, and you could attach a LTE device to that. The problem is, or the big benefit here is, it's the packaging. If at this location that I'm physically in, they use a pile of data. You have tons of data. They're streaming surveillance cameras all the time. If we were to use a LTE device on a regular Rogers cell phone plan, it would probably cost $1,000 a day if the internet went down, which is not really a viable option. So what this is the package deal is that it's complementary. Now, to show you how it works, okay, on the computer here, I'm not sure how much of the screen you can see, but I think you can see enough to get an idea. I'm going to ping cnn.com, infinite please, and what I'm getting now is 26, 10, 13, 8, 8, 6, 11, 11, 11, 22 milliseconds, so averaging maybe about 15 milliseconds. All right, we're going to let that run, and then what we're going to do is we're going to simulate a internet outage. Now, what the Rogers technicians like to do when they come on site is they like just to pull off the Ethernet cord off the back of the modem. Let me just see if I can turn this around. There we go. They like to pull this, but in the real world, that's not a real simulation, because who's ever going to pull that? Not going to happen. They like to pull the power. Again, you're not going to power this down. In this case, it's on a UPS that will run through most a typical length of blackouts that happen in this area. So that's not going to happen. If the blackout was that long, then you've got a different problem. Then you need generators, but we're not going to get into that right now. So a real world scenario is, let me grab a time. How am I going to time this? I'm going to use Windows here to time it. Okay, when the clock strikes 3:29, I'm going to start pulling it. I'm going to now quickly pull. It's hard to pull quick. I'm a few seconds over. Let's go. I think I lost about 5 seconds. There we go. I just pulled the coax, the source of the internet, and you'll see on my ping results, request timed out. So in my test so far, it was 3:29 and 5 seconds p.m. We'll just call it 3:29. We'll round it off. In my test so far, what happens is that this box here, the load balancing router, has to realize the internet's gone down. And I'm not exactly sure how it's doing that, because nobody at Rogers will answer that question, but what I can tell you is that it seems to recover within about 2 minutes. So I think what this is doing is every 2 minutes it's checking for internet. So we're now at almost a full minute since I pulled the Ethernet cable, and we still have no internet. As you see, the requests are all timing out. And we're at the 1 minute mark. So in this case, in this particular site, there's alarm monitoring going on, and the alarm monitoring in this case considers internet out for longer than 5 minutes or longer, an alarm situation. So of course it causes a problem, because if the internet goes down at 3 o'clock in the morning for longer than 5 minutes, the owner gets a phone call, wakes him up at 3 o'clock in the morning, telling him the alarm's gone off due to an IP disconnect error, which of course you don't want to be woken up in the middle of the night for nuisance like that. But it's a UL alarm requirement, which relates to an insurance requirement. So it just has to be done. Okay, so now we're at 3:30 and 45 seconds, and hopefully it should be just under 2 minutes, or maybe just over 2 minutes. We are now, it all depends on when you considered the moment that I pulled the coax, because I did struggle with that for a moment. Okay, oh, there we go, 2 minutes. Just saw it was actually, I would call it, at 5 seconds I pulled it, so it was actually 1 minute and 55 seconds. It's now failed over, and as you can see, the ping rates, I don't know if you can see them, but I got 37, 30, 34, 54, 53, 21, 31, 49. It's more than double the ping rate, and that's because of the latency involved with LTE data compared to regular data. And as you can see, this light here is the key light here. These 4 bars here are your 4 bars of cellular signal strength. And this green light here is telling us that it's on LTE. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reverse. Okay, now cable's been cut because a truck ran to pull up the street, and now it's a few hours later, maybe a couple of days later in some cases I've dealt with. The Rogers has come through and fixed that wire. So let's simulate that. I'm going to try and get that in quickly at exactly 3:32 p.m. It's close enough. So now what happens is interesting. It still takes about 2 minutes to fail back over, or correct, or fail back. Can you fail forward? Fail backwards. I'm not sure. To revert back to the coax, it'll take about 2 minutes, and I want you to watch the screen here because you're going to see probably just one ping drop. Because what's going on now is that the cradle point is still using LTE from the cell antennas, and it's sometime in the next minute or two going to check, and it's going to say, oh look, internet's back. Of course we'll have to look at the side of the modem, you see, because the modem has connection already, but this device doesn't know it yet. So for my experimenting, my guess is that the cradle point is checking about every 2 minutes. So now it's been about 1 full minute. That is 1 minute since I reconnected the coax. But what's interesting is because you have uptime of LTE, the fail back time, or the restore time, is very quick. As soon as the cradle point notices, see that light's green now? Green means it's using cellular. It's on cellular backup. And orange means that it's using normal coax internet. Okay, so we're at 1 minute and 30 seconds now. What we're waiting for is this light to go orange, and at the same time you should notice at least one ping drop on the screen here. You can see the ping times are hitting high. There's a 131 milliseconds, 48 milliseconds, 58 milliseconds. When it reconnects, there'll also be an increase in speed there. Okay, so and again, the restore time, even though it seems to be taking a bit longer because we're just at the 2 minute mark now, and it still isn't restored yet, we still have a green light, it sort of doesn't matter because while you're waiting for it to restore, you're still on LTE. And like I said back towards the beginning of this, the big advantage here is the package. It's the fact that the LTE data is complimentary. It's free to use during the time your internet is out. All right. So now we're at 2.5 minutes, I think, and we haven't recovered yet. Again, the time is less important for recovery because you still have data. You still have access to data through the LTE network. Wait for it. I've never seen it take longer than 2 minutes. I've tested this at least a dozen times across different sites. Let me make sure I got the coax on properly. Oh, there we go. You see we got one dropped ping, and it was, what was that, 3 minutes? I lost track. 3:35? I forget what he said, but I'll have to check the video, play it back and see what time that was. But it was 2 to 3 minutes it failed back. But again, it doesn't matter how long it took because in the meantime, I had LTE internet. So, and you see now at this moment that happened, that light would have gone from green to orange. So there you go. That's what they say when they market Rogers Business Grade Internet with LTE backup. And where this is exceedingly important is if you're processing credit cards. If you have a retail store of any level where you're processing debit or credit cards, and you've got a rush going on, or a restaurant, anything that deals with payments, and you've got a lunch rush going on and your internet goes down, and you're going around telling people, oh, we can only take cash because our Visa machine is down. Well, with this setup, that problem virtually goes away. I mean, the chances of coax going down at the same time the cellular data network going down are highly, highly, highly unlikely. I don't like to use the word impossible, but it's about as close to impossible as you can get. Anyway, so that is my explanation of Rogers business grade internet with LTE backup. I hope you learned something from this. I know that when I was trying to research this, because it is a pretty new product, that I could find very little information, and calling Rogers was less helpful because the salespeople and the first level support really don't know what's going on. They don't know the actual application, as I've shown you here today. So I hope you enjoy. If you like this sort of thing, please subscribe. I've got a goal to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of this year. So if you've watched the video this far, you must have learned something from me, and I think that deserves a subscription. So please do, and we'll see you soon.